known as Mumu or Nigashita in Sumer. He apparently takes on lots of bodies in different cultures. He was born on the island of Kio in this incarnation. Calls himself the master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king, and magician. Now think about the tarot Egyptian Magi card. That's him. He says he's immortal, living from generation to generation. Well, we saw from the Sumerian kings list that some of those people look more relative to us too. I mean, if they were living 28,000 years and more, I mean, that's for us to live 120 years. Anybody who lived 400 years would seem immortal. If you didn't, if you died before they did, I mean, how would you know, right? At the point that he wrote this, he said he was preparing to pass in the halls of Amente. You'll find out later that he went there 100 years out of every 1,000. Now go read Revelations. We're talking about the new ruler of the king of this earth, Jesus, being in his reign lasting 1,000 years, and he's going to go away for a short time. Right. Remember that correlation stuff I was talking about? Putting these pieces together. And he also sets guidance for the future generations, which initially were these priest kings in Canaan or Egypt before he dispersed them out to various areas, knowing destruction was coming. It was almost like it was planned. It was intentional. I think I started just highlighting some of these bullet points, the ones that I really want to talk to you. He was taught by his father so that he would, at some future time, fulfill his destiny that he didn't fully understand at the time. Okay? He then talks about leaving Atlantis and going to this land of Egypt and doing his mission. So the idea that Thoth was one of the most important deities in Egypt, well, now you see why he started it. We talked about this. He even talked about having a crystal to concentrate energy at the entrance to his temple there in the halls of Amente to keep other people out. Well, what did Admiral Byrd encounter? The same exact thing when he was lured up into the North Pole and had an encounter with the master who took him underground and told him, you guys need to stop this boring thing, or guess what? At some future time, you're all going to be destroyed. So we've been given warnings as far back as Admiral Byrd's diary about how we should change our ways. Has that been communicated to the masses in any significant way? No.
And all this information in the crystals and crystal lighting.
Right. Yeah. And he also describes the king's chamber in his pyramid that he built for a graduation location for this ascension process that he was teaching. So that was in tablet 1. Might be a couple more things that are important here. Oh, so here was his exact quote on page 167, where he tells you, in my chamber, he tells you to get in the stone sarcophagus, and then this is part of his initiation, where he was initiating the true seekers of the belief in graduation. Okay? Even in the darkness of earth shall I meet him. I, Thoth, Lord of wisdom, meet him in holiness, dwell with him always. Where have we heard that? In the Christian religion. Various ways. So the idea that he had energy that could be in multiple places at the same time is very hard for us to fathom how that works. But he states that that's what he did. In the second tablet, he talks about how important wisdom is and to avoid this ego trap, and the fact that it turns out to be a prerequisite for participating in the initiation process of alchemy. There it is in writing, right from him. Okay. He tells us how to live our lives. Live an extraordinary life of love, abiding by the law, and don't turn the other cheek like the Bible tells you when you see evil.
I know, it's a
Like that's not going to change anything. Be a hero and risk the consequences of what's going to happen to you when you encounter this. Unless you do that, your past going to go boing, 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 boing. I know, because it's happened to me. So. He talks about carving these underground structures of the halls of Amente. Well, it turns out they had access from Atlantis to the halls of Amente before his passage into Egypt. Okay. So then, when he got to Egypt, he then talks about carving a new passageway from under his sphinx back to the halls of Amente. So apparently it existed and was accessible from Atlantis at that time. That's a pretty long tunnel, as far as I'm concerned, okay?
So the halls of Amente, they haven't found them yet.
Yeah. Well, not according to Dr. Jim Hertog in this movie he shot called Chambers of the Deep.
That's what I'm wondering if those were the halls of Amente.
Well, I believe they were. And it's not just a little place. Apparently it fills the entire Nile Valley. It's huge.
It's just empty?
Well,
We don't know.
not according to Thoth. The 7 cycle masters actually are in there, surrounded by this crystal that's emanating a frequency that is the component that animates and creates all matter. Now that's where we get into this light encoding of the reality matrix that I want to talk about. How does light create matter? Okay, we talked about the double slit experiment, where light has this property, doesn't like to be observed. I like to view light as the most unmanifested form of energy that can create anything, especially from what we know into our visible spectrum, the stuff that matters to us, right, that we can see. So is this real? Or is it made of light? Same as any material thing. It's an illusion.
Right.
That's hard to grasp because you get it, well, I can feel it, so how is it not real? But we've been trained to all say, that's a chair, this is a table, that's hard, that's soft. All these are parameters that can be coded in a simulator, and you'll see that I actually coded one up, so you can actually see that you can create a holographic simulator. And train your entities in that simulator, the parameters of what you want them to perceive. It's all a function of your sensors, right? Alright, you guys about needing a break here, okay? Need coffee?
Good.
That's good. Getting close.
He describes, he's describing these beings as essentially being avatars that can leave their body. The 7 cycle masters, he asserted, came from other places that never had bodies, and nor did they need them. Okay? This is an important part for us. That those who master the external world have the potential to be initiated to become a master of life, to then occupy the same place in the hall of Mente with him. Amazing. I sure want to do that. I want to graduate. I don't want to be reincarnated. Am I going too fast? Here in the early tablet 2, he specifically states, and this is his quote, he says, "Let me be a teacher of men, leading them to the light." Okay? He's our consciousness coach. And he was commissioned to do exactly that by those lords in that tablet. So it's good that one of them stuck around and decided to look out for the primitive workers, because we sure are screwed up as far as I'm concerned.
Didn't he also say that when he comes back, he's going to be pissed if he betrays?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, he talked about, well, in particular the priests who could read, who had taken dominion and responsibility for this knowledge that he left them. He warned them about disparaging, changing, misrepresenting his knowledge. And I got really upset on radio a couple times, especially after I encountered people that were doing exactly that to the Emerald tablets. When I first went on YouTube to look to see who was doing that, it turned out somebody who had walked through the tablets was cussing and swearing, and that's a bunch, I was like, wow, did you not read what he told you in here? He said, "Bring me not to profane." Okay? And I'll go ahead and name names, okay? Josh Reeves had no business doing that.
He did that?
Now, as a matter of fact, I left comments on each one. I said, "Did you not read this? Did you not realize that you're disparaging some of the most profound knowledge on the earth that was told not to do that? Were you paid to do this? Was this misinformation? What's going on?" Anyway, but yeah, I've gotten to the place where I'm not turning the other cheek anymore. When I see people doing things that are incorrect, I'll call them out, especially when it comes to the information war. We're analogized to having a star in our body. Remember this Ba field we were talking about?
Yeah.
This Ba field can be spawned to a bright flame so that you go from material form back into the light being that you no longer need a body. And that's where we're going ultimately to see that. hillbilly rules of learning. Well, I don't think it comes close to the kind of knowledge that these guys had of these 7 cycle masters. Okay? I mean, I discussed, why wasn't it number 1 through 7 versus 3 through 9 that shows up? That's because I believe you see that there's a lower dimension, the 14th dimension. I believe that those two, one of them I think was assigned to the parallel dimension, and the other one was assigned to the lower dimension. And then in our particular order of reality, we got 3 through 9. So it looks like our particular dimension that we're in right now is very important for evolution of consciousness. Because we're above the lower dimensions, and we're kind of parallel with the 9, but we also have all these masters there to work with us.
Each dimension has a master.
I do some speculating here, but unless it's highlighted red, I was going to spend a lot of time. But I'll put it up there if you want, and I'll be certain to make this data available to you guys.
Does each dimension have a master?
Well, I think they do. I think each cycle or dimension is a function of a galactic wobble. Okay, that seems to be how it's related.
Right.
And you'll see later that these cycle masters each have a function and a role. And the top one, number 9, his job is to coordinate the lower cycles. Doing what they do is they relate to one another. And ultimately you'll see that, according to Thoth, that all of these cycles are going to merge onto one plane. There won't be 14 lower, 9 parallel in our dimension, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's saying they're all eventually going to merge into one plane, and we'll all be in the same game. So you're going to have to live with those people from New Jersey eventually. I'm kidding. Okay. In tablet 4, where Thoth starts talking about being the spaceborne, he says during his out-of-body experience travels, he gets all this cosmic knowledge that leads to him describing the energy of the torsion field effects, rotational body that goes at 19.5 degrees, forms a eccentric, all that stuff that's going on in space in the bodies is also going on in this body. So as above, so below is what that means. Okay, so this star tetrahedron, the energy field that's around your body, it's the same one that's around planets. Okay.
It's like a fountain.
Exactly. It's like a hologram. You know, in a hologram, you can take a part and still represent the whole.
Right.
Okay. Well, so it's very similar in that sense, even from the cellular level all the way up to a full organism. Right? It's the same kind of concept. All the mechanisms for creating the whole are in the small part,
Right.
like seed.
Wow.
I think I might get through this one and then get some coffee. I think it's tall and some coffee. It's actually me that needs it, but I'll blame it. Another important point on tablet 4.
Overwhelming.
This is really crazy. Now, remember in the Bible where Enoch is taken up with God and blah, blah, blah? Well, in the Lost Book of Enoch, he goes out and he talks about perusing all the planets and getting a tour and coming back with all this knowledge and sharing. Well, now read this. Thoth generalizes that he goes out, sees all these other beings on these other places, and in general, he goes, guess what? We're all struggling toward the same evolution of consciousness goals. Some are farther along than others, right? And it's really interesting. He meets some that are so highly scientific that they were fashioning and manifesting things with a mere image in their mind. And he talks about the dweller of Atlantis having done exactly the same thing through what he calls the power of Yolton. Something about being able to image something in your mind and then create it. Whole cities. How is that possible to take and manifest matter just from a thought?
The Jews have always been able to do that.
What's that?
The Jews have always been able to do that, right?
Well, that and even the gurus over in either the Hindu or Tibetan religion, there's lots of instances of that being able to manifest something out of nothing, right? Whether you've ever witnessed it or not, or believe it or not, there have been scientific studies of this, and they don't truly understand how that works. Except, that's why I was so interested when we get to this holographic model where we're talking about the law of creation of time, the law of creation of matter, how it is that light creates matter. Because I think we're ultimately getting to the place where we finally understand that through bonding and platonic structures being brought together through various bonds, whether weak electrical or chemical bonds or covalent bonds or whatever, or strong nuclear bonds. Oh, I thought I should have highlighted that. He reminds us we're instances of this cosmic light in our heritage is to ultimately return to the source, whatever that is, right? And he gets into kind of in depth about what that is.
It makes you wonder about light itself, but light is intelligent.
Well, actually, when you get later into these tablets and you realize how he affiliates the source of all with the circle of all light and the creator of all, that it makes sense that light is the most unmanifested energy that can create anything. So, you're looking at the creative mechanisms of this creator of all, and the physical, tangible, measurable components that we can use in science now and how they possibly interact. Okay, I'm going to stop us right here.